Here we are, Merrifield Circle, right around the corner from Moose Cove Lodge Road. This is the launch site, the start of Color War 2012, where it all began. Didn't know what was going to happen next, but the rest is history.
So the break in 2012 took on a lot of different forms as we were trying to figure out what we were going to do.
A lot of people don't know that it was actually scheduled to break the day before, but there was a huge rain, lightning storm, so we were forced to break it the next morning. You know, we had to pivot last second, and we stayed up all night trying to figure out and change the break. All we knew is that we had the helicopter.
So what we were able to do was kind of take bits and pieces of ideas we had and kind of put them together, and we thought it would be fine because we had a helicopter, and that made everything pretty cool.
There was so much tension in the air, and it was, I think, usually the second week of second session, and everyone was trying to guess what days it might happen, and if someone saw Monge in the wrong area of camp, that was a sign about something that would happen with the break, which was always fun trying to decode what was happening. Just really heightened emotions.
By the time Color War came around, we had mapped out like every day on the calendar of which day could break because we had to work around certain holidays and whatever. So we were ready. We were ready to go. And I cried.
It was a morning break, just your everyday average morning. Pretty clearly remember standing with Toma, walking around. I was wearing a gray sweatshirt. It was just a great day. Excited to get some food. If I'm not mistaken, I believe a helicopter then proceeded to land on the softball field.
We weren't strangers to breaks involving aviation of any sort. My first Color War break was the catch-up break. So planes overhead usually sort of set off like a bit of an alarm in my head. And I think the second that we saw the helicopters start to come down low was when we knew, like, all right, these are our helicopters. Like, this is how we know that it's about to start.
We just all ran to the back of the softball field, and then helicopter landed. I'm pretty sure, I don't know if it was Saidi that came out, but just a bunch of people came out. And then the only thing I remember was just when we found out our coach, it was Brodsky. He had no idea he was coach, and it was so funny because he was standing right next to me.
For me, the most exciting part of the break was getting to mess with Alex Brodsky.
As a bit, I guess, the committee decided that it would be funny to not tell me that I was going to be a coach when usually they tell everybody because they can prepare and get a good night's sleep and, maybe get some stuff that they'll want. Very reasonable things that they would want, but they decided, oh, let's not tell Brodsky and let's just have him find out.
We didn't tell Brodsky because we just thought it would be kind of funny. He's somebody that likes to joke around with other people, so we thought it might be a good chance to give him a little bit of his own medicine.
Brodsky thought that it was really going to be between me and him who got voted to be gold coach.
We thought that we were the likely front runners for the gold coach slot. I didn't know that he was on the committee.
Weeks before, Brodsky and a few other counselors, they caught me walking from the pool. I was head of pool at the time. I was walking from the pool towards the Monch house for a committee meeting. They had no idea that, where I was going. But we saw Moose, Doug Murphy, kind of going through the woods sneakily towards the Monch house, and I was just like, oh no, like he's out. And of course I couldn't go to the meeting myself, or else I would have been outed too. And so Brodsky, myself, and a few other staff members, we were spying on our own committee meeting. I was able to text some of the committee members, give them a heads up. I said, if you're not at the Monch house, don't go. If you're in there, stay in until the coast is clear. And what worked out perfectly is then I could really mess with Brodsky, because he had no idea that I was going to be on committees, considering I spied on my own meeting.
So a day or two before, Sadie came up to me at lunch and said, hey, just so you know, they told me I got it.
I want you to hear this from me, but they told me I got gold coach. I'm sorry, I know you wanted it.
And I was a little disappointed, but whatever, give it another go next time. Cut to that morning, and we're lining up for flag. The helicopter starts to come. Okay, here it is. This will be fun. The smoke bombs go off, the helicopter lands, everybody runs around to the other side of the dining hall, and they start the announcement process. And when that happens, I see running out of the helicopter Shari and Saidi. And my first instinct was, oh, that's great, good for Shari. She's going to be the blue team coach. Because they had the gold team coach and one of the blue team coaches in the helicopter, I guess, as part of the break. That's exciting for them, how fun. And then Mon starts announcing the committee. And he says, on committee, Shari Idelson. And I said, that's weird. Why was Saidi in the helicopter with the committee member? And then he says, on the committee, Josh Seidman. And I said, that's extra weird. And my first thought wasn't, oh, they played a joke and he's not the coach. It was, how did they nominate a coach who's also on the committee? That's unheard of and unspeakable. And I am not happy about it. And they announced the coaches, and they got to the gold coach, and they announced Saidi first.
For the first time ever, we have a committee member who is not really a committee member, but is also a coach. I'm just joking. The 13 coaches Alex Brodsky!
It was like a switch turned on. It went from apathy and not caring, disappointment, to I'm the coach for the color war team, and had to turn it right on.
It was really fun messing with Brodsky, especially because we told all of the other coaches, Leah, Jilly, Kenny, but how could we give up the opportunity to mess with Brodsky a little bit? But all the teams were really excited to find out who their coaches were.
I was psyched because Jilly was a color war captain, and she had her name on the banner that I used to sit under when I was like a young camper, maybe a prowler. And I used to look up at that and be like, oh, Jilly, yeah, she's so cool. And then she was like a celebrity that came to, help out with all of her knowledge and her know-how. And then we had Kenny.
This is my first year at camp, so I had never witnessed anything like that. Didn't really understand the hype, I guess, because I had not grown up going to camp either. So I had no perception of how important it was to people and how into it people got. And it was a pretty quick learning curve that I feel I did okay, establishing myself as a coach and being supportive and accepted and understood my role as a coach and how to support the team. But it was intense. Another thing about color war that I thought was interesting was the staff is put on the Maroon team, and they come up with their own team name and cheers, just as kind of in the spirit of color war. But Bainwich, they acted like a whole separate third team. They were so coordinated and organized, and it put me on the back foot. I was like, is this like this every year? Are they that good?
The fact that the counselor team, the Maroon team, decided to have Bainwich as their mascot was troubling to me.
A combination of Bane from The Dark Knight and Chip Witches, which were all the rage in 2012. And the staff are supposed to be impartial, but they didn't feel impartial at times. Felt like they were trying to crush us. Bainwich, the Maroon team, they went so far, they created a trailer, like a movie theater quality trailer for Bainwich. I was floored. I was like, how are we supposed to compete against that?
So you know about color war? Of course. But what if there's a tie? I don't know.
So Bainwich was obviously the team name of the Maroon team.
What are you? I'm evil and delicious.
Bainwich was one of the more like active, spirited groups of staff members that I've ever encountered. It did really feel like at some point we were not only going up against the Gold team, but also the Maroon team.
That summer, I think Mark had taken everyone to see the new Batman movie for a trip day, as a true Batman would.
Mr. Wayne.
Oh, Bainwich? They knew what they were doing. They really gave us a run for our money.
All week, gold had an advantage. Blue had an advantage. Maroon had an advantage.
Bainwich is an icon.
It looks close. I'm getting worried.
Chipwiches were the icon.
I respect their hustle. I respect their commitment. The Maroon team really got into it that year and made it fun for us to, write counter cheers to them and really include them as part of the inter-team banter.
Of course we had Bainwich. How could we have done Color War 2012 without Bainwich?
When Micah is ashes, then you have my permission to tie.
Don't worry, Master Wayne. They would never take color war away from the children.
Yeah, they totally took color war away from the children.
"2012 was the first time I was on committee. I've since been on several different committees, but this group was very, very creative. And throughout all of our meetings, we were really looking for ways to kind of spice up color war. At this point, color war had been kind of done the same way for so long, and we wanted to incorporate some new events and see how they went. So one of the big things that we did was we added unit challenges. So we added the Summit All-Star basketball game that incorporated a halftime cheer, and it was really kind of like this big grand nighttime event for the Summits.
We also came up with the spelling bee and the ultimate charades for unit challenges that are very much still a part of Color War today.
Those things were, I thought, were good additions that we were really happy about. Some people did not feel like the Bald Pate time trial was as good of an addition.
The Bald Pate time trial. Yes, I honestly thought that was a horrible idea. It sounded like a good idea in the beginning, but then once it happened and there was issues and stuff, I think it went downhill, pretty quickly. But
you know what? I don't really want to talk about the Bald Pate time trial. I think in all the years of color war and of all the missteps that the committee has made and the overreaching that the committee has done, I don't think you can find an example more egregious than the Bald Pate time trial.
The Bald Pate time trials, I believe, were a new factor into the Micah Marathon. Certainly an interesting little twist if you will, to the Micah Marathon.
So the Baldpate time trial was an experiment in Micah Marathon history, if I remember correctly, that was designed to like give a head start to one team based on how quickly their best runners, I guess you could call them, or hikers, could get up to the base of Baldpate.
We had representatives on both teams from each unit, and they would start at the base of Baldpate, and each kid was assigned a different leg up the mountain and down, and it was just kind of like a relay race, going up and going back down.
And the winner, or whoever had the quickest time, that difference between the quickest time on one team and the other team was an advantage on the time that they would have for untying the knot at the beginning.
The Baldpate time trial, while might have been a nice idea on paper, I think looking back, maybe not the best choice. It is what it is. It's done. It's in the past.
What I thought was interesting is the marathon encompasses all activities at camp. Things that you don't really have to be an athlete to do, which I think is great. And they were also incorporating the Baldpate time trial, which I was told was a new thing, and it was a race up and down a mountain. And as a hiking staff, I was like, yeah, they're including hiking? This is great. Like, what a great idea.
It was really cool because both of the teams did their relay race for Baldpate separately. So they didn't know the times that the other team got. So at the end, when both teams had already gone, we were able to tell them what their times were, and it was a really big deal because that was how we knew when each of the teams could start untying the ropes for the beginning of the marathon.
And I remember looking at Rachel, and the intensity of the moment was just so strong. I think we were in the dining room, and I looked at her and I was like, it's gonna be okay. And she was like, I don't need to hear that from you. And I was like, oh no. I honestly I mostly remember looking at Rachel and just trying to navigate the situation between the politics of color war and friendship.
So when we were told we would have a 2-minute and some odd second head start, I was pretty excited. I was like, oh, absolutely, we'll take any advantage we can get, because from what I was told by other counselors and Brodsky, he never failed to mention how stacked athletically his team was to me. So I don't know if he's trying to demoralize me into being less of a coach to my team. But when I found out we had an advantage, I was very grateful to take any advantage we could get.
We will start the marathon. Okay. Blue team, you have a 2-minute and 8-second head start on gold.
In terms of the head start, I was gonna bring this up actually, because the head start gave us a head start on another new aspect of the Micah Marathon, which was like the rope untying, right? So I think our year was the first year also where Jim Huey had prepared a bunch of, probably with a couple of other people, had prepared a bunch of really complicated knots, as everyone who's at camp now knows, because it's still a huge part in how the Micah Marathon starts.
However, the advantage quickly diminished at the beginning because our captains, bless their souls, could not untie a daisy chain.
Us as the captains and co-captains, we had no idea what to expect with these knots, but because we had a head start, due to the Baldpate trial, we were sort of the blue team went first in trying to untie this, and we were doing a bunch of pulling it and trying to analyze it and figure out how to best get it untied quickly. And we were struggling, to be honest. It took us a while. And then we did finally get it untied before the gold team even started, I think.
I was on the rope untying team for gold. And so I just remember sitting there watching them and trying to look at our rope and see without touching it, because we couldn't put our hands on it, where all the knots might be. But of course, you have no idea what's under there because they're all so complicated. But we spent the time trying to analyze, and I don't think it helped at all.
But then the gold team figured out during the first untying, that there was some like special area in the knot that you could just like pull, and then all of the complicated knots came undone immediately. So we lost our head start right off the bat.
So the marathon had started. We'd started at a deficit because of the sham Baldpate time trial. But we overcame adversity. We came back quickly.
All I remember about the marathon is it really went back and forth and back and forth. Blue got out to the early lead, but they were, even though they had a time advantage, I think I just remember Blue really struggling right out of the gate at archery as well, which trying to pop a balloon or get a bullseye or whatever that challenge was. And I think by the second event, we could already see the gold runner with the baton coming from the flagpoles, and that the head start was a wash by the second event.
Blue team struggled at archery, and before we knew it, gold went from a 2-minute and 8-second, I believe, deficit into a pretty substantial lead.
The marathon got into full swing, and back then we still used the BMX course as part of camp and part of Color War. So the coaches and the captains, or the people running the legs, had to do a big run from BMX all the way to volleyball, which was just a really long run, very tiring for everyone involved.
Our fearless leader, Alex Brodsky, unfortunately fell off a golf cart during the Micah Marathon.
It was a tough marathon for me. It was a tough marathon for the team. I'm guessing you're curious about the golf cart incident.
Well, people ask me about the Brodsky golf cart incident a lot. And in my 40 plus years of camping, I can't think of a more moronic thing a counselor has ever done. And I've seen a lot of moronic things.
It's a blue team tradition to run alongside the blue team captains for the marathon. He was trying to run alongside, trying to copy the blue team running alongside the captains, or in the marathon, which, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, I hear. But he had jumped off and the golf cart was moving too quickly for him.
I think, yes, A, I should be running the marathon with the team for morale and support and coaching and the rest. B, I could really sit down for 30 seconds right here to make sure I could keep running and not totally collapse and have an issue later on. So I took the opportunity to get in one of the golf carts and ride up to volleyball. We get down the BMX path, make the turn by the gate, and start coming through the gate. As we're driving through the gate and starting to crest that hill over by staff housing, Matt Rosenblum, who was the runner, who was set to run from BMX to volleyball once the BMX course had been completed, was already turning around the corner, running with the baton in hand. And so we're coming up the hill, and I'm on the back, and I yell to Prager, who's driving the golf cart, slow down, stop the cart, I'm going to run with Rosenblum. Here's where it starts to get a little blurry to me. I felt the experience of the cart slowing down. I thought, it's slow enough that I can run alongside. So I hopped off, started running, didn't make it a single pace when my foot went out from under me and I face planted in the road. At that point, I still didn't realize how serious it was, because I thought, I fell down. I look like an idiot. That's fine. I'll get up and start running. I tripped. So I get up. Matt had, at that point, just about caught right up to me. So I get up and I start running next to him. And he looks up to me, still running, with one of the more genuinely horrified looks I've seen in my life.
And then all of a sudden I just look at my coach Brodsky, and he is just blood all over him. And he's like, he giving me like a big smile, and he had like, you know, a tooth that was chipped and everything.
I do remember this because I remember the younger kids being scared and like not knowing what was going on, and like scared of literally looking at him too. And I remember being like, nope, like let's divert the attention. That's weird. I don't know what's going on with that.
When you've got all the adrenaline of the marathon going on, you can't think straight, and he certainly wasn't thinking straight because he took one of the better spills that I've ever seen and just, you know, completely busted up. So I respect the hustle, absolutely. You know, you can't knock him for it, but it was pretty tough to watch. But to see him bounce back for the sing later that day was an inspiration to all of us.
Brodsky falling off the golf cart, he had a good laugh in a much needed time. We were all obviously concerned for him, but he came back somehow with even more energy and like peppiness and was just ready to go. So that definitely like reinvigorated everyone.
I think it boosted our morale because we kind of just like all thought of it, laughed about it. We kind of like got to like not think of like everything that was happening, and everything was so intense at the time.
The marathon has sort of a tradition to it that I really was looking forward to being a part of as a coach. And it was such a shame to be sidelined for it because they sent me to the facial surgeon where I couldn't be there for the fire, I couldn't be there for the puppy puzzle, I couldn't be there for the hula hoop. And again, not that I'm any fire master, but if I were there to tell them to throw more stuff on the fire or to blow more on it, maybe that one piece of advice would have swung in our direction. But the committee decided that it wasn't safe for me to be there and basically sidelined me. Do I regret going to the hospital that day? Of course not. Do I resent a little bit being sidelined and being told how I should handle my injuries when I thought that there was something that meant more to me than the well-being of my face? I do. I resent it.
I believe he had to be transported to the hospital, actually, therefore missing the end of the Micah Marathon. And, you know, just another factor, you know, another what if in the Micah Marathon there. You know, maybe Alex is there.
I think it's obvious that, you know, all they had was one coach, and Leah Lopes, she did an amazing job without her co-coach. But I do think that Brodsky leaving for those few crucial hours might have crippled that team.
You know, sometimes the spirit of competition can overwhelm your sense of judgment. And maybe there was a part of me that was, I don't want to say happy, I don't want to say glad that he was hurt, but it was fortuitous that they had lost some of their leadership. And it was evident when, you know, they floundered at the end. It was heartbreaking to see.
And then when we got to the burn, like, you know, the rope burn, it was so close.
And blue and gold got up here almost at the exact same time, and it started. And I remember being up here and yelling from the sidelines at my team, giving them direction, and watching gold throw all of their fuel on the fire at the beginning, and they had this roaring flame, but then it fizzled out pretty quickly. And I remember looking around for Brodsky. Like, well, why isn't he here to support his team?
Gold's flame and their fire was roaring so early that I think they just thought it would eventually their rope would burn, and they stopped putting wood on. Blue kind of kept feeding and kept feeding.
I remember very vividly having a pretty strong lead going up towards the end. It ended up being a very highly contested rope burn. I know we had at least a 2 to 3 minute lead getting up there. You know, unfortunately, we weren't able to get it done.
We did a big fire, and we did not come up. You know, we did not get the victory, but yeah. And all I remember was just, you know, crying a lot and a little upset as usual. But it was intense. I got to give it. It was intense.
You know, a lot of what ifs. You know, when I was involved in many different activities during said marathon. I know that I contributed a penalty to our team A lot of different what ifs. If one thing goes one way, one thing goes another way, maybe we come out on top. But everything does end up happening for a reason, I guess.
I'm pretty sure that Blue's rope burned less than 2 minutes and 8 seconds before gold. So everyone's instant reaction was just like, the ball pate time trial, like curse the ball pate time trial. What would have been if they started evenly?
I don't remember exactly how long it was in between the blue rope dropping and the gold rope dropping, but I think that the difference in time was probably less than the time trial gave us a head start. So I think that there's definitely an argument to be made that the ball pate time trial helped us in that regard.
Blue definitely only won because they had that advantage. There was nothing else wrong with the gold team that entire color war. That was the whole thing.
I'm not thrilled about it. I got the call from one of our coaches that we had just lost the marathon. I was devastated, of course. I was heartbroken. We knew it was a close one. This could be the nail in the coffin. I'm in a waiting room an hour away with Novocaine and gauze in my mouth, trying to be supportive over the phone to my team captain. And I think, you know what? Maybe I can use this as sort of a pump-up tool, because that night was the sing. And if there's one event I knew that the gold team was not going to lose that year, it was that sing.
Going into the sing, it was very close. Close as I can ever remember it being. But there was still a lot of scores to be calculated. Obviously, we had the sing. We had plaques, Picassos, and sportsmanship, all which play a big role in the outcome of the score. And so going in there, I wasn't sure how it was going to play out, and it played out the way it did.
So I quickly found out that the marathon and the sing were the two biggest and most important events at Color War, and also worth the most points.
Blue had won the Micah Marathon, of course, only because they had the head start. That's the only reason. And we were really nervous. I remember, just like there is now, there's that like pre-sing hype, like rally, and everyone was just so focused on you have to win the sing, and trying to calculate the points. And if you win the sing, you can win Color War, even though no one has any clue what the points are. You all try to guess.
Because I'm such a sook and softie, I was never one to be counting the score. The entire time I was the captain, I did not count the score once. I had no idea what was going on in terms of each unit activities, who was up on who, or I knew the big events, like I knew who had won the tug of war and I knew who had won the marathon. So the only thing was the marathon running in the back of my mind. But I remember going to the sing being like, this is anyone's game.
What a great sing. A great sing. I know I came in, I know our whole team came in super hot, just really getting pumped up, to go in there, do Skidotin one more time. I think the whole team was really excited. We were really excited about our repertoire of songs that day. I think I believe that was the second year of the gold team's alma mater. It was really coming into form. I think previous to that, I think Drops of Jupiter really had the gold team beat there. But I think we were all really excited about the song that was written the previous year, just how great it was.
I thought it was a huge success. Our songs went off flawlessly. We had some problems with memorizing bits of the cheer, but in the moment, the team really brought it together. The cheer went smooth. The songs were smooth. Everyone was together. Everyone was on key. The round of the mashup sounded spectacular.
What really gave me chills was at 2 points I got chills. When we finished our alma mater, it was so beautiful. And I was watching kids just crying, especially the upper summits who knew that it was their last time doing Color War. That was very touching. I got chills and teared up a little bit myself. And then Gold Team doing the Skidotin was something I had never seen before. And the way that they were so put together and so loud. I remember sitting there, and some of those kids were looking at me during the Scudoten like they wanted to kill me. I was a little scared. I was a little overwhelmed with emotion, some goosebumps.
My main sing story has to do with our free song, Stand by Rascal Flatts. I don't know if anyone's brought this up yet, but essentially Rascal Flatts has an interesting intro to it where there's some like instrumental lead in, and then you have to sort of know when to come in, like with the vocals. For some reason, when we got up on the stage, or when everybody was standing up in Uncle Milt's, the intro went through one time on the piano, and we all sort of froze, actually.
The blue team just completely messed up doing their song, the free song. And I think this is a crazy, like just an all-time crazy moment that somehow they didn't come in at the right time. They missed the first line of their song, of their free song.
The entire team forgot it. Not one person came in on time. And I kind of realized in a split-second panic moment, and then started on the second line, and the entire team came in on the second line, and I was like, yes, we are so in sync. Like, we are one. We all are in each other's heads. And that's like what the sing has always felt to me. It was like that energy is just in every single person. I loved it so much.
I have the recording still of the sing free song, and I can't listen to it to this day because it's too hard to listen to.
You know, maybe I'm wrong here, but I think our execution was flawless. Just spectacular on our end. We were well rehearsed. Jordan Wolcon on the keyboard. Just an overall great sing from the gold team on our end. I think the results sort of spoke for themselves on that one.
So it was a really great sing, and we just went. The committee left the room to go downstairs into our underground, which is where we go to deliberate, and we just had no idea what was going to happen. We had no idea. We just knew it was so close, and it could really go either way. And the first thing that we had to deliberate was the sing. I
remember Blue, actually, they messed up on one of their songs pretty blatantly, unfortunately. They crushed their alma mater as usual. It's a beautiful song. I think Gold probably took the cheer with Scudoten. But the free song, I think, was really the deciding factor that year for the sing. And Blue had some misstep. It was an unfortunate misstep, which means we had to give Gold the win for the sing.
So when the committee was sitting downstairs and Steve was adding everything up and he realized that it was a tie, and he said, "Oh my God, I think it's a tie." We all went over quick and looked at his math and made sure it was right, and it was a tie.
There was just silence among the committee, just drop-jawed, and we're like, can we do this? Can we actually announce a Maroon color war?
My feeling was color war is traditional and was entrenched in history the first year of camp. And the Maroon team is the Maroon team, blue is blue, gold is gold, and if there's a statistical tie, it's a tie. And that's what we do. So we didn't let it go to anything else, go to a tiebreaker, and it became the first of what will be, again, someday, a Marooned color war.
And we go back into Milt's. And I remember walking into that room, you have 400 eyes just like fixed on you. We were standing up on the stage, and I was just queasy. I knew the devastation that was going to come forth towards all these children.
See, this is a tough one for me to chat about here. When the committee came back in, obviously a lot of nerves. Knew we were playing from behind, after losing the marathon, but was confident in what we had done thus far to see if we could win.
I think that I do remember clearly the announcement about the outcome at the end of the sing. It was like a fencing duel, if I remember correctly, right? And again, this was still back when they would announce the winner of like each activity. So they were going back and forth. They did unit activities. They did like the evening activities. They did the meals. And, you know, we would sort of make eye contact with the captains on the other side, on the gold side. And like, this is getting pretty close. Like, it's going back and forth a lot.
And it got to the sing. And for me, that was it. That was color war. And sing went to gold. And it was like a relief. It was like, that must be it. There's no way.
And then when gold had won the sing, I just saw all of the cheer and the happiness from my team just drain. And I tried to pick them up and say, no, let's congratulate them. It's okay. I think we still have this. Like, I feel confident.
And then finally it came to like announce the winner of the big thing, the color war. And it went back and forth for the longest time. This was like a 4-minute, like drawn out fencing battle. There was no need to keep poor kids like us and the rest of the teams like on the edge of our seats for this long.
And one of the fencers was gold and one of them was blue, and they were back and forth and back and forth.
They're going back and forth. I think they were trying to figure out how to stab each other at the same time and both fall down, because that's what happened. They stabbed each other very slowly. They both fell down. And then Steve Monge threw out a Maroon t-shirt.
And then finally, like both fighters, both fencers fell down, which I think is an interesting thing to think about, is that both teams like fell down instead of stayed standing up.
Steve announces the winner. It's Maroon wins color war. And just the room, just all the energy was sucked out.
And then I think everyone at once, or maybe just me, started sobbing. And like, thought it was a joke, but it was a really mean prank to play on all these young kids. And then it wasn't a joke. And some of the younger kids thought like the counselors had actually won color war. And then you had to explain like the counselors weren't competing, they didn't win, but like we just tied. So it was definitely a day of being sad.
I'm gonna try to keep it PG. It was definitely like, it was like a stab in the heart. It was crazy, because like that was like what I lived. You know, I was at finally in B15, get to be a captain, you know, lead the team, and then all of a sudden it was like all that work was like for nothing. You know, like it was, but it was good because like it was great competition, and it's something that I look, you know, that I love to look into the rafters now and stuff like that. So
I remember looking at my co-coach Jilly, and she just, her mouth, you couldn't pick her jaw up off the floor. She was just like looking around, and me not really understanding again the gravity of the situation. I did my spirit fingers like, yay, Maroon, it's a tie, like we all win. In my mind, you know, it's not something to be upset about because everyone won. Again, I was wrong. Everyone lost. And that's what people remember. And there were a lot of tears.
There was just such mixed reactions from everybody on both sides. Like, you still got the tears from a bunch of people. People were crying and devastated, and there were some people who were laughing, and there were some people who were just like shocked. I think that was probably the most common reaction, is people who just had no idea what had happened, didn't even know it was like a possibility. And yeah, I think that silence that was at least my reaction, was like just no idea what was going on.
In the exact moment when I found out, I was, we were at the sing, and I was staring directly at the gold team captain's bench, and I just see Josh Geller burst into tears. And I took that as my cue, and I was like, all right, I guess I should cry now too. So then I cried. And then Josh Geller promptly walked out and banged his head at full force against the grotto.
And he went straight to the grotto and started banging his head on the fireplace until he started bleeding from his forehead. He took it like a loss.
I wasn't very pleased. Some might say. I was having trouble, taking it. I was telling myself that I would have rather lost than tied, which I don't know is necessarily true. Yeah, the couple minutes after finding out we tied, color was a blur. Did spend some time in the grotto, hung out with the wall a little bit. Yeah, it was pretty inconsolable for a couple minutes there, but it it was quite a scene. I think all of camp was really in shock.
It's a tough thing. What are you going to tell a kid? It's not. It's different than winning or losing. 'Cause if you win or you lose, at least there's an answer.
In reflection, I don't think it was rigged. I think it was the most honest move they could have made. I don't think the committee has alternative motives when it comes to scoring color war. I think they are our moral compass when it comes to gold versus blue. And if it just landed on maroon, what are they going to do? Push the dial? I hope not. So I think honestly, I was honored because my name is up there on that flag that stands out. So,
and I think everybody's far enough removed from it now that everybody who was a part of that can, look up in the banner. Look up in the dining hall at that maroon banner and be like, "Wow, we were a part of that." And that's something that almost nobody else can say that they were a part of. So I think, and even though it didn't seem like it that night, I think in a weird way, it made a lot of people a very special part of Camp Micah history. And there's rumors that people were saying it was a conspiracy, that, for whatever reason. What bias could I actually have for wanting a maroon banner? Really.
Mark, at multiple occasions, had mentioned there was never a maroon year. And, well, maybe it's that time, says Mark Lipoff. And I think that's quite interesting now.
On the other hand, though, one thing that I fully needed to bring up is, another line of thought that a lot of people my age had that year, which is that for some reason, throughout most of first session and the beginning of second as well, we just heard a lot of very strange whispers and murmurs, and even directly from the man up the top himself, Mark had said, there's never been a tie in color war history. Maybe this is the year, and nobody had really brought up ties to us in years prior. So just the fact that he brought up ties so often in 2012, and then it just so happened to be a tie, you're never going to know, but what really did happen in 2012 is for anyone to say.
I'm not a huge conspiracy theory guy when it comes to the scoring, but there were hints that he said, "Hey, it'd be a shame if color war ended in a tie for you guys." I'm not going to point any fingers here. I'm not going to jump to any conclusions, but I do know, throughout the summer, Mark would sort of make remarks in passing. And it's certainly, a little suspicious, I would say.
There's some inconclusive evidence that leads me to believe that maybe there was a conspiracy. Maybe they were tired of the duality of gold and blue and gold and blue, and they just wanted something different, something memorable.
So the question of a conspiracy and whether or not I ever said anything about a tie is totally false. Totally fake news. Fake news. That's what it is. And it's fake news because a tie was always a possibility. But that there was a conspiracy is totally false. The committee was right on top of things. I was looking at the scores, and we were all actually surprised when calculating the final scores after the sitting that there was a tie.
I have full faith in the committee. I have full faith in our team. But that one thing that keeps me up at night, that lingering loose end, a guy like Mark Lipoff, very rarely is it actually a coincidence. Few coincidences with that guy.
I had heard that the summits, and specifically Geller and Kaufman, who were a problem most of that summer, I heard that they may have started the conspiracy theory, but there is no truth to it. And if you're going to listen to Geller and Kaufman, you might as well listen to anyone.
I would appreciate some sort of outside, like, independent auditing system for color war committees every year. I think that they hold a lot of power, and it's a pretty shielded process, and just to let them go about managing and deciding something as important as a color war outcome year in and year out without so much as like an outside opinion or just checking their work. Like, maybe the math is off, who knows? But they can single-handedly make or break a kid's summer based on, the outcome of a color war. So that's a lot of power to hold. And while usually I think that the people who do that are qualified, who's to say for sure?
How the committee's chosen has always been an issue for people because they don't know how it happens. And I won't go into the whole thing, but what I'll tell you is it's chosen by the upper administration for reasons that I really can't get into. I'd like to, but I can't.
Can't you see how some people would look at that lack of an answer as just more, red tape from the administration? Transparency be what we're going for here?
I don't really look at it that way because, as with most decisions at camp, people create rumors, insinuation that, I really don't believe occur.
If someone were to finally come out and say from the committee, like, yeah, actually, so-and-so won, it was a conspiracy, I wouldn't be surprised.
People say that color war is rigged. I hear it every summer. I've heard a lot of conspiracy theories about 2012 in particular, and I can say that it being a tie didn't truly cross our minds until we realized it was a tie. A Maroon color war has always just been this this what if, but it's never gonna happen. Until it does.
Some people ask all the time, some very good people, some people who I think are fine people, ask all the time, what team won? And the answer to that question is, it was a tie.